This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 462, recorded on October 1st, 2020. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios. And Mike, this is like, I just, every fall, I'm just reminded how much I like fall in the Midwest. It's pretty
Fall in
great,
Nebraska is amazing. Like, the temperatures are perfect. These are the days where I like to go outside and work from home if I can. If I can get away from the meetings and have just some time where I need to crank out some work, I like to go sit out on that back patio.
Working from home's not bad when you can grab the laptop
really
and sit out. Last night, Tim is home, my Marine son, and we went out and enjoyed some beverages and a cigar, and it was that perfect temperature where it was cool enough and windy enough that we just had to turn the deck heater on a little bit, right? It's that kind of, It was just that perfect temperature out there. No bugs. The crickets are kind of calming down. Cicadas are gone for the most part. I think we have a frost warning for tonight or tomorrow night, one of the two coming in. And so it's just the perfect time of year. I just love fall here in the U.S. Leaves are all crackly and crunchy. We could use a little bit of rain, but maybe not. But with that, we'll post some show notes, and they'll be pretty good this week. By the way, if you haven't been out to check out the show notes in a while, I've been putting a table of contents in the show notes now. So if you want to know where a subject starts, boom, in the show notes. If you want to know how to get to the meetup, we're going to talk about that here in just a second, boom, in the show notes. So head out to theaverageguy.tv/HGG462 is kind of the easiest way to get there. Or just go to theaverageguy.tv. It'll be if you're listening to this, anything in the last 4 weeks, it's going to be right on the front page. So check out those show notes. I'm spending a little more time getting that table of contents that'll take you right to it. So if you want to know, Meetup, boom. If you want to know when we started talking about ham radio, boom, they'll all be in there. theaverageguy.tv/HGG462. Big thanks to the October sponsor, Canva. You ever heard of them, Mike? Canva.com. Are you familiar with our friends over at Canva and what they do?
Yeah, I've heard of them, but I need to learn more about them because I haven't personally used them, but I've heard they're really good for creating images. Is that right?
Yeah, it's exactly right. So like the album art that you see, if you go to theaverageguy.tv, here, I'll show you really quick. If you head out to theaverageguy.tv and go to their front page, no, not the dashboard, Jim. You want to go to the front page. Let's see if we can get there anytime. So as you look at this, of course, this is pretty standard graphics. The Home Gadget Geeks, although I built this on Canva, that graphic there. But from time to time we post, I get some other contributions from outside sources, and I make graphics for them. And that's how I make them. I make them on Canva. You can import in your own images. You can, if you go in here, I can say, create a design, give me a custom dimension. In this case, I always make my album art 600 by 600. It's just something that works well for me, right? Brings up a screen. If you're listening on audio, this might be a good time to head over to video. I can come in. I've got a place they have stock photos. Some of them are free. Some are paid. They do have a paid plan over there at Canva. They also have the ability to upload images that I want. So if we're doing a custom, we're doing an event at Gallup this week called the Theme Thursday 2020 Challenge. And so I just grabbed some of those graphics, and you can just bring them over. If I wanted to do some things with them, I could bring them in, extend them out, make them, pretty easy, make them bigger. It's kind of graphic design for the graphic design challenged, right? Because you saw how easy that was, right? I could bring those things in. I can resize them if I want to.
And all in the web browser too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's nothing you need to download. This is all done in the web browser.
Yeah, completely browser based. Maybe I want to add some check marks to these, right? So I'm gonna put check and search for that. It's gonna find some check marks for me, and then I can grab that check mark. Now in this case, it's black, and I want it white. Right. So I'm going to flip that over, and now it's white. Now I'm going to grab that and bring it over. Ooh, it's too big. So let me just size that thing down. Boom. I made that image today. I think that's the exact one that I shared on social media. You see how fast that was to kind of create that image. Yeah. So you can too. Canva has been around a while. They're sponsoring us for the month of and they're the affiliate, the sponsored affiliate for the month of October. Go to theaverageguy.tv/Canva, Canva. If you sign up for an account there, we get a little credit for that here as well. But just kind of a great way to do graphics and images, and has been. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just gonna ask a question. So I saw on the homepage there, it looks like they have some templates for like that are sized. If you don't know the size dimensions, it looks like they have like social media. So like, oh, YouTube channel art. That's the one I saw. So it seems like it would be the perfect dimension. You're just filling it in. That is super helpful because every time I go to upload like a new channel art, it's like, oh, you have the wrong dimensions. And I'm like, I don't even know what dimensions you want from me. So that's really cool. That's probably, that would be my biggest use case right there.
You can layer in there. You can add text on top of things. Sometimes their text like this, let's get groovy. Okay, well, maybe I don't want to get groovy, so I'm just going to take that out, right? And I can take this one out as well, and then I can add my own. I can come over to the text element here. They got all kinds of different graphics. I can just bring those in, pop them in, size them up. Again, maybe this one's too big. Actually, that looks pretty good, doesn't it?
It does look really good.
Not too bad on the fly, right? Wow. It's almost like I planned it, but I didn't. On this one, I seriously, I just faked it. So,
and Brian asked, is this the free version or the paid version that you're using?
This is the free. Right now I'm using the free version. So there's a lot you can do free. Where you get into some of the paid versions, like you can see here now showing is a free graphic, but then as we scroll down, many of these
like some premium ones.
Yeah, let's go. They're in the photos. This more prevalent in the photos. Where you'd come in again, a lot of free photos if you want to jump in there. Usually I have a hard time finding things that are not free. There we go. This one is a pro. So in most cases, like I can buy a pro image for $1, which is pretty great. I can use it anywhere I want, right? Yeah. No, right on. And so just a great way to kind of, if you're struggling with, listen, I'm not a graphics design guy, but I've been able to do some pretty cool stuff with Canva.
Well, and that's what it seems like it's directed towards, right? Like I don't know my way around graphics, but the one you created for the website there, the image for that blog post looked like something you would have paid someone to do. And so looks nice, professional, shadow, good colors. So
about 10 minutes on that, right? Great. I just grabbed that. This one was actually a pre-done and it was free. This word bubble was free.
Go
ahead.
I was gonna say these tools like this, when you think there's so many of these for video editing too, that there's so many people now that are making spectacular content and they're not firing up Final Cut. They're not firing up Adobe Premiere. There's some tool that helps them with the transition, just like plug and play. We'll make it look good. You give us the footage or like right here, right? They have a bunch of stock images. We can make it look really good, super fast. I'm always impressed by services like this that are taking that. You're not starting with just a blank canvas anymore. It's for kind of that intro user. Really cool.
Yeah, you can try. They got a 30-day pro if you want to give it a try, but the free version works. I've pretty much been on the free version. I have paid for graphics as I've gone along, so I probably spent $15 or $20 on graphics for these kinds of things. When you're done, you just click download it. You can download it as a PNG, a JPEG, a PDF, either standard or print. So you got a bunch of different options. It works out really, really well. Give it a try. So we're going to be talking about them here through the month of October. So give them a try. theaverageguy.tv/Canva. And like I said, anything if you sign up through that link, anything you buy or any plans you do help us here at theaverageguy.tv. So appreciate you guys doing that. Appreciate Canva making that affiliate relationship available so we could get that done as well. Mike, big thanks to Kyle last week who jumped in. That was a fun.
That was a lot of fun. Yes, I had a blast with that show.
It was one I enjoyed going back through and doing the transcripts for, just because it was fun listening. He did a really nice job. Like Kyle's kind of grown up on the show. I was talking to you after he dropped off, and I was talking to you afterwards, and I just said it's been kind of fun to watch Kyle kind of grow up on the show. He's really good at this. Like this is something he should be doing on a regular basis. So
I totally agree.
Yeah, Kyle, thanks for jumping in and giving us the time. Got me thinking about some things and some audio and so Kyle, thanks for jumping in and getting that done. We also want to talk a little bit about the October meetup. So since we're in October, Saturday, October 24th, you're going to want to join us. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/October OCT 2020 meetup all one word. If you can't remember that, it was too long, but that's what I needed. It's going to go in the show notes that way. I sent our subscribers, if you go to theaverageguy.tv/subscribe and sign up for the newsletter, I actually am sending out kind of weekly updates now that these meetups are happening. Like, I'm kind of motivated to send you guys updates on those. So if you hadn't subscribed, you might want to head over there and subscribe to that. That link will be in the show notes as well. But Mike, that link will get you to Eventbrite if you get signed up, and a couple of you have already. That puts you in the mix just to make sure I know how many are coming and how we're going to plan this. And the times are in there. I think I have 8, 1, and 8. So 8 a.m. Central, 1 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Central. Did I say that right? 8 a.m., 1 p.m., 8 p.m. We're just getting together. You don't have to make them all. You can just kind of come and go. But it's going to be sometimes those slots in the morning. 1 will be to talk about what we're going to put on. 2 will be a midway check of what we put on. The evening will be pictures, and maybe even if you've got time or you want to bring it, you could bring it actually to the meetup to show what you've done. That'd be
a taste test. All right.
Yeah, I think so. If you're in Europe, of course, you'll be awake before we are. So start your grill then. You don't have to just join us, get in there. Australia, same deal. If you want to start your grill as we're ending, that would be awesome. We just love to have it. If you want to join as part of this kind of the streaming smokers, we're going to stream smokers. Say that 10 times fast. We're going to stream our smokers all day. And so if you want to be part of that crew, send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and we'll get you set up to be able to do that. Mike, I'm just going to have a webcam outside. I got it all set up. Power. I moved plugs so I can have my laptop plugged in with a camera pointing at the smoker. That's all
I think I'm doing an iPad just to make it easy. So I'm doing an iPad out there on a little stand. And that's the way I'm going.
I've decided I'm roasting chicken. So in the morning,
nice.
And I know that won't take all day, but I'm going to do Mark Robson's trick where slow, almost as slow as possible, really just let that sit in there. And then and hopefully not catch fire like it did the last time, right? The drippings caught fire on me. But then when it's done, I'm going to wrap it in tin foil, throw it in the cooler and let that sit. And what I'm really hoping to get is an all day meat, just drop it off the bone type deal. So when we get it on at 8, we'll bring that out. We'll show it. I'll have the camera in my kitchen. We'll be doing some things. So, and I think I'm going to do wings. So I think I'm going to put the wings on as the chicken's coming off, or around that 1 o'clock slot, put the wings on for maybe a 6 o'clock, something along those lines. I know they don't take that long, so I got to kind of figure out where they're going to go, but they're going to be my afternoon grill. So chicken, then wings. We won't be able to eat them all. We'll have to throw a party or something to do all that, but love to have you join us. Get signed up, theaverageguy.tv/October. And October is OCT 2020 meetup, 2 E's in that, MEET. Or check out the show notes, get signed up. If you can't remember any of that, just send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and I will send you the link to it. Mike, I'm not really blasting that out on social because I don't want some Twitter jackass coming on like, right. We don't, we kind of want to keep it to us. So
keeping it in the family on this one. Yeah.
We're just kind of mentioning it in the pod. Got any ideas?
You guys are all in the family. If you're listening to this, you're in the family.
Totally.
You're invited.
Totally in the family. Got any idea what you're gonna throw on the grill?
You got me thinking. So if you're doing chicken, I might go ribs. So I might go ribs for the first bit. Those only take me about 5 hours. And then I was thinking the same exact thing was wings after the first round. So I'll probably do ribs and wings, which will be kind of fun because we can both kind of compare how we do our wings. My wings don't take very long. But my ribs take about 5 hours, so we'll try that out.
I will. I'm going to take and copy and paste the link to. There's the meetup link in the chat room. So if you want to head over there and get signed up on Eventbrite, you can do that right now. Again, Eventbrite just gives me an opportunity to know how many are coming and how to plan for this. So we've got a couple already signed up. You've got time as well, and this should be. I'm kind of looking forward to it. The Patreon meetup went well, and this would be a great opportunity to just do what we do best, right? Which is just
grill meats,
smoke some meat. So
yep,
it'll be super good. Hey, you came on, gave us kind of a ham primer. We saw a really shady looking antenna hanging off the back of your house.
Yes,
and but you got some updates. I've never seen anybody accelerate into these kinds of technologies like you do. You're so good at this. So spend a little bit of time, catch us up a little bit on the ham side. We're going to actually, I think, maybe do a live demo of what it sounds like. I think that's kind of cool. So
hopefully we can do a little demo.
Catch us up a little bit.
Well, so when we were talking about getting into this, it was my very first time diving into HF. And I think I hinted at the fact that we had to hunt around for some RFI, right? There was some radio frequency interference that was affecting my ham radio play. And you guys know that on the last show, I mentioned that I solved that issue by putting TP-Link smart plugs on all the devices I found in the home. And then whenever I want to play radio, I just tell A-Lady to turn off the RFI devices. I put them all into one group and we're good to go. Well, the hard part about ham radio, though, is that obviously when you live in a neighborhood like I do, it's not just your house that you're picking up. Sadly, you're picking up every house around you in the RFI. So that's out of your control, right? I mean, I could go over to my neighbor's house, knock on the door and say, hey, could I come around your house with my little pocket radio and find all the devices that are interfering and turn them off? Would that be okay? Yeah, that's not creepy at all. No, not creepy at all. No, definitely not. I already get some weird looks. We'll talk about that. We talk about my antenna upgrade, which we already talked about. But so the only way to really help that out is to fix your antenna. And when I say fix your antenna, there's no perfect antenna, but there are ways that you can make it better, especially when you're in a neighborhood. So number one is to really not use a vertical antenna. Vertical antennas are vertically polarized, and a lot of RFI tends to be vertically polarized as well. And they're going to pick up a lot more interference from a neighborhood setting. So check mark box for me. I was already not using a vertical antenna. You guys saw that I use a dipole. A dipole antenna is a wire antenna that goes horizontal or in a V shape. Usually the center's up a little bit higher than the legs if you can't get your legs up high. And, you know, this is one of those things, Jim, I was telling my wife, as we've been driving around now, whenever I'm in the car driving around like neighborhoods or when I pass anything, I'm like, oh, dude, I'm jealous of that guy's property. Look where he could hang that antenna. Like, he's got some big trees in his backyard. The guys, even at the end of my cul-de-sac, have these massive, 100-foot trees that would just be amazing to have in my backyard because I can hang an antenna off. But so we're using a dipole antenna, which is already check marks. The second thing, really, the only thing you can do is get it up in the air. You really need to get these things as high as possible. Number one, that just helps propagation in general. You're going to hear better, but it's more distance you're putting between your antenna and those RFI devices. So nothing's going to be perfect. You're always going to have issues with noise and RFI, but I just knew that if I could get it any higher, that would be great. And so I think everyone called it in the chat that I wouldn't really stick with my antenna setup for long. And it's partly true. I have the same antenna, but I have actually changed the mast on it twice since we talked. So I think last time we talked, I think I had the 10-foot PVC pipe, didn't I, sticking out of my roof?
I think so. I think so.
Right.
It was
droopy though. Yep. So the setup I have right now is I have a old satellite dish mount. So I took the satellite dish because we don't use it anymore, took the dish off, but kept the mount. And it actually makes a perfect mount for a mast. And what I had done before was I had used PVC pipe that kind of slid perfectly into the mount. And that's what I had on the last show. And it was 10 foot tall. And then I put the center of the dipole, I mounted the center of it onto that PVC post. Well, that PVC post was not thick enough. It gradually over time was just starting to droop more and more. And I just knew at some point, it probably would have lasted for a decent amount of time, but it was going to crack and I would have had more of an issue than I want to deal with. But I really didn't come up with my perfect solution yet. I kind of put a Band-Aid on that because what I did was I just went out and got a bigger PVC pipe, a thicker one, and I slid it over top of that PVC pipe. So I had two PVC pipes, one that fit into the mount to kind of provide the actual supported mast, and the other one slid around the outside, really to just give it some more structural integrity. But even that one, first of all, it was only 10 feet higher than the house, which was okay, but not great. And second of all, it just started to droop too. It wasn't the best. So I did a lot of research kind of looking around and there were quite a few options. Really, a lot of people actually suggested to try my hand at a vertical antenna because they come with the mast, they're ground mounted, but they said, we kind of all came to agreement that being in a neighborhood, like we talked about, vertically polarized, not good when you have that much RFI. Verticals are fantastic if you are out in the country and don't have trees or anything, but you don't have anyone around you, a vertical is a great antenna, but not for the neighborhood. So all I ended up doing was actually going out and getting top rail. And top rail is, you can get it at Lowe's, Home Depot. It's meant for your chain link fences. So if you go to the chain link fence section, and the great part about it is it doesn't have to be kind of that standard steel color. They actually have the ones that are coated in a color like black. That actually was the only option at my Lowe's. So I went to Lowe's, grabbed the black top rail, and they're 12-foot sections. So I grabbed 2 of those. And I grabbed the top rail, one end gets skinny so it can slide into the other piece. But then they also come with, you can add more integrity to that joint they have kind of these steel joiners. So you slide the steel joiner on, you slide the 2 poles together, and you've got it. So that's what I ended up going with for a mast. So I now have a 24-foot mast on top of my, whatever it is, 12-foot, 13-foot house at the corner, at the bottom corner, because my roof is obviously pitched as a ranch style, and this is on the bottom corner of the roof. So the lowest part of the roof is where that mount sits. And so I got up there. Actually, this was just a few days ago. Got up on the roof the other day, and I didn't really account for the weight difference because I took the PVC pipe down, grabbed the antenna off it, mounted it to the top of this pole, this 24-foot pole, and I'm sitting on my roof, and I go kind of like a pole vaulter, and I'm hoisting this 24-foot pole up. Like I said, I didn't think about the weight though, and it actually started to go off the opposite side of the house. I don't know how I actually got it into the mast before I started to fall off the roof, and I swung myself around, but I held on to the satellite antenna holder. But we got it up. So now the antenna is up an extra 14 feet, right? So it's up 24 instead of 10, and it's worked really well. I've been really surprised at how well it's worked. I'm getting a lot more distance. It's always hard to judge, and Jim, this is probably the most frustrating thing about ham radio. The band propagation, meaning how far I can hear and who can hear me, changes on a minute by minute basis, and especially a day by day basis. Today I could hear Finland, tomorrow I could hear nothing, right? And so it's super hard to test whether an upgrade I just made helped or not, because I have no reference point. There's no standard for figuring it out if you've done well or not. But I've given it a few days now, and I would say averaging it out, it's going all right. So that was kind of the first upgrade we made.
My neighbor down the street and on the corner is a big ham guy, and he has one of these kinds of antennas. Now,
I'm jealous.
We're not in a neighborhood unlike yours. He has it behind his house, and it goes up quite a ways, and then he just hoists the antenna up right through that pole.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a line that goes down, and so I've been eyeing his setup. Now, this isn't his exact setup. It's just one like this. It's not quite as big as this. It's a little bit smaller. I'm not sure you would catch him climbing on it like this, but it's that same style. It's the triangles that make their way up, right? Reinforced. And he's got a couple antennas on there as well. So I've been, it's funny. It's been there the whole time we've lived here.
You've only really paid attention now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's what my neighbor said. So actually, it's been funny because they obviously saw when I hung it the first time, and we all joked about it. But I'm pretty close to the people in my cul-de-sac. But then all of a sudden, I was going out to hockey the other night, and my neighbor across the street goes, "Hey, trying to talk to Mars now? Or like, what's your limit now?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Man, when did you put that upgrade up?" And I said, 7 o'clock. I said, "Where were you? I almost fell off my roof doing it." He goes, "Dude, you should have came and knocked on my door. I would have come over." And I think that's the funny part. I told him, I said, I think my wife would probably ask me to do a written apology to everyone who has to see this antenna. And he goes, "Dude, I think it's kind of cool, actually. I've told a buddy now I got a ham for a neighbor, but I'll share just real quick, just so you guys can see. It's not obnoxious. But I mean, it is definitely noticeable, right? So it's this black mass. So this is taken from the cul-de-sac side. So this is what the cul-de-sac side is seeing. I kind of live on a lot that has street on all 3 sides. So it's completely surrounding the property. And really, it's funny, in the backyard, you don't really notice it because I have a lot of trees that line the street. But it does get up there as a ways. I mean, so the mast goes all the way up. And then, like I said, the dipole has 2 legs. So this is set up in the V formation. One leg goes to the back tree, and this leg, actually, this is just rope from this spot of the house up, and the antenna probably starts, I think, right about there. This is the short end of an off-center fed dipole. So on an off-center fed, one side of the antenna is actually shorter than the other, it's split up 66%, 33%. So whatever your length is, you've got 1/3 and 2/3. So I actually put the short side here. And the reason being, because I used to actually have the long side of the antenna coming over to a mast that was on this corner of the house. And I thought, okay, so I've got wire running right over my attic. And I do have 2 security cameras here. And those are 2 of the offending devices that I actually have to unplug when I want to play radio. And I think it's the way they get power. They have one of those jankety PoE, but you actually have to plug it into a wall and then run that into the PoE. It won't work off a PoE switch. So I was like, you know what? Instead of having wire run over all this stuff, I'll use the short end and then have the long end go to the backyard to a tree. And I think that's actually helped out a lot too, where more of the antenna now is away from the house, not over anything electrical. Which has actually helped out. It's been good.
Do you think you'll have any neighbor problems with it in the future?
I don't think so. I mean, in the world of ham, this is the most unobtrusive antenna you can get. I mean, there are guys if you guys want to Google the Step IR antenna, and there are people putting this Step IR. It's a Yagi antenna. So it's got literally, so you got think about, those TV antennas you see in like the country or in neighborhoods where they have one straight and they have the rails off the side. Think of a massive, gigantic version of that on a rotator so they can direct it. People are putting those on top of their house. So our HOA, I did check, it does not have any rule against antennas. So I think that would be really the only way I would get in trouble is if the HOA had a rule against visible antennas, and they don't. So I think until I start interfering with people's electronics, I don't think anyone will have an issue.
When satellite TV doesn't work during the Nebraska game,
that might be an issue. Yes, it might start to make people's.
Yeah.
And really, that's TVs can be affected by RFI. So you'll notice that this is actually the most common reason that happens is there's a bad transformer from the electrical company. So one of those ground mounted transformers or one that's in the air has a crack in it. And so people around their TVs will flicker. They'll have some really weird things from that RFI. And people have experienced something like that. But really, you need to be pushing out a lot more power than I am to have that issue. So no one will experience anything.
Do you worry about lightning?
I do. That's the next step of what I need to do. The funny part about this is you learn a lot. And Jim, I don't know how I missed this in science class. I missed this in every single science class. I always just thought that metal attracts lightning. I was like, well, it's going to attract lightning being up there. Metal doesn't attract lightning, but metal does conduct lightning. So when lightning hits it, it's going to travel through it and destroy anything it's touching. Right. So that's kind of the difference is I always thought like there's not a higher likelihood chance that this is going to get struck by lightning than if that was wood, for example. But it is something you have to worry about, obviously in Omaha. It doesn't happen too often, but there are precautions you take. So what you do is you actually I need to do, that's my project this coming weekend, is I need to run a ground wire from that base, the base of the satellite, and they actually had one for the satellite dish. I took it off when I didn't think I was going to ever use it, put it back on, run it to a ground rod right below it. And then what they also have is for your antenna, the coax that runs straight down that goes into my basement and connects to my radio. The coax cable actually, where it's split, you have what's called a lightning arrestor. And so it's a connector on each side, and it actually, when it senses that, it'll short itself and it's attached to a ground rod. So the idea is that most of the electricity will go right into the ground rod. It's still going to destroy anything on the other end. So you always unplug the coax from your radio when you're done playing radio, if you have lightning in the area.
Well, lightning always follows the path of least resistance. And if that metal is the path of least resistance going straight to the ground, it will be attracted. It will seek it and go to it and then shoot it down. But you want to make sure, I mean, you've got a big metal thing hanging out in the air. If there's lightning in the area, it's probably going to hit it. So having it grounded is key, and having it grounded well is key. That's one of you want to make sure that thing is grounded. That 1.21 gigawatts that comes off the
yes, that's how we all know it, right? Back to the Future, we're all gonna
1.21 gigawatts. So you want to get that grounded just as soon as you possibly can.
And it's funny, grounding is actually one of the most controversial issues in ham radio because there is all sorts of rules old rules, myths that you're supposed to follow when it comes to grounding. But really what you need to follow is the electrical code.
Yeah.
And the hardest part about that for me, my biggest headache I'm going to have when I work on the grounding is that my electrical ground, so my AC ground for my house, is actually not a ground rod outside. I wish it was. Mine is tied to the water pipe in the basement. So my water pipe, which is valid, that meets code. You can use the water pipe, but that means that my external antenna, because any ground you have, they all need to be bonded together. So I just can't put a ground rod outside and have it ground my antenna and call that good. You're supposed to have that ground rod bonded to any other ground for the house. So I'll have to figure out a way to run a thick gauge wire or braid. They usually use braid quite a bit into the house and run it all the way to the water pipe. It's going to be interesting. You're not supposed to tap into the AC ground wire because actually where that punches into the house is right by my electrical panel. Yeah. So if I could just bond it right to the wire that runs from that panel to the water pipe, that'd be easy. But I'm gonna have to run a certain wire. So there's so much when you get into this, Jim. It's like one of those hobbies that just never ends. I'm like, oh, geez, there's so many requirements that I need to think about. But yeah, grounding is the next phase, and it does actually help with RFI sometimes. Sometimes you can get rid of some static they call it the common mode interference. Proper grounding can sometimes help with that as well.
Yeah, no, it's good to follow code. This is one of those where that wire, if you do get struck by lightning, that ground wire is gonna get hot.
Oh yeah,
like in fast. And so you want to make sure this isn't one where you want to kind of rig it. You want to make sure it's like you're doing it right. It's to code. It's in the right things. It's doing the right stuff.
Yep.
So all kind of important. Did you also did you change the actual ham radio? Are you going through the computer now, or what? Did you make some upgrades there?
I did. Of course I did. I can't just. So you guys will recognize that when we did the show, I had the radio actually right behind me in this spot right here, and I was using the Mac. Number one, it was not good posture. I think it was driving my occupational therapy wife nuts that I was sitting in because this workbench doesn't have a spot to put your feet. So I was hunched over. I was in a bar stool playing radio. And honestly, I didn't sit down for long periods of time. I didn't get to enjoy my radio because I wasn't comfortable. So I brought the radio actually back to this main setup here. And you guys have seen probably pictures of my setup. I have 4 monitors right in front of me right here. Got my gaming rig that I'm coming to you guys on. And there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with ham radio via the computer. I showed you guys that last time. We did some FT8, which is some modes you can do. But even more than that, there are some great applications that let you fully control your radio from your computer. So you actually don't need to be sitting there playing with your radio too much. It's the same radio, right? You're just using an application connected over a USB cable to control it. So I brought my radio over here. It's been fantastic having it here because now I sit in my comfy chair and I actually have another mic right here. This is my ham radio mic. So this is connected to my ham radio, same exact setup. So I have 2 microphones and can just pull that over. And I actually have the ham radio now running through my Go XLR. So I got everything wired up and this has been great. It's like a game changer. Once you're comfortable, being comfortable doing something is a huge thing, and just convenience, right? And so comfortable and convenience was kind of my goal. So I run it through the Go XLR. So I actually don't even need to switch anything. Right now, if I want to listen to my radio, I just throw up one of the sliders on my Go XLR mixer and I can listen, just switch over to this microphone and I'm good to go.
Can we hear it? Can you?
You can, yeah.
You play it so we can hear it. I know some folks know what this sounds like, but bring it up here. Let's
yeah. So this is what's funny too. So you want to know that one of the biggest offenders of RFI is actually this LED strip that I put on during the show to make my background look good. So we might hear a little static, but let me try here. First of all, I'll give you guys what static sounds like. So when there's nothing heard, well, let's go tune up to someone talking.
55 feet, somewhere between 50 and 55 feet. I can get it up to 60 feet, but it works really well here, right at that height. So I just leave it alone.
Talking about antennas, they must be listening to the podcast.
Right. So they're talking about their setup. That's usually what you're going to find guys talking about. Let's see what the other guys are talking about over here.
Also, thank you for your service there in the military, and I'm very happy to know that you are.
So now I know how Star Wars did some of their radio special effects.
That's what my buddy said as you're scrolling around. So let's see here if we can get.
I expect to hear somebody say, "Let's get set up for our attack run."
Here's someone.
Seriously, they must have just recorded Ham when they were making some of those radio effects.
So what that is if you're not perfectly on frequency, as you're scrolling, when I'm scrolling this wheel, I'm changing frequency. And it's like the radio, right? The old school radios, as you start to adjust, you could hear them start to come in. And so it sounds like they're kind of, and all of a sudden, as you get right on the frequency they're talking on, it clears up. And that's what they sound like. But there you can see we have two stations talking over each other.
There's an owl in a tree someplace close by. It was,
Some guy's got an owl in a tree close by.
It kind of feels like we've gone back to the 1950s, you know?
Well, I mean, we kind of have, right? Like this has been around for so long.
Right.
I just, and so what I was just doing there is kind of cool when you look at the, it is, yeah. So, Andrew called it that single sideband. So this is kind of one thing we didn't get into, and I'll give you guys here's another fact you can take to your next cocktail party. You'll love this. So back in the day, on the HF bands for HF, people used AM radio. So think of AM radio like you tune into your car. They used AM as the mode of communicating. Well, AM takes a lot of power for how far it gets, I guess is the best way to put it. It's not very efficient, right? It takes a lot of power. And so what they decided was, so AM has a carrier in the middle and two sidebands to it. That's how the audio looks. Like if you were to look at it, you would see the carrier in the middle and you'd see two sidebands. They said, well, we don't need super high fidelity for talking on HF radio, right? Like this isn't the super high quality stuff we need. So let's chop out the carrier and one of the sidebands. And so now what you're left with is called single sideband, which is by far nowadays the most common mode to communicate on HF radio. You still use FM sometimes, so frequency modulation. You still use FM for the short distance, the ones where I was talking on for the first year that I was licensed when you're doing short range, UHF and VHF. That uses FM. But on this radio, mainly you're using sideband. So the radios I can switch to AM if I want, and talking to AM. And some old school guys are just like, they're not leaving AM. They love their AM stuff. So you'll tune around sometimes and you'll hear the AM guys. And man, it does sound good. I'll say that. But the amount of power it takes is just it's useless really for what you do on radio. And then, so they made it even more complicated. There's an upper sideband and a lower sideband. Don't ask me why they didn't just pick one and stick with it. But now you have to memorize on which band you're supposed to use upper or lower sideband. It's not like a regulation. It's not like a rule. It's more like a gentleman's agreement that if you are below 10 megahertz, then you're going to use lower sideband. If you're above 10 megahertz, you're going to use upper sideband. There's no difference. It's not like one works better than the other. So I really have no idea why they didn't just pick one for all communications. But that's what they did. So
be some reason.
Yeah, probably some reason there.
Somewhere in there. Ham didn't fit into the pan, so they cut the end off.
And it does sound funny. So he brings up a good point. Let's just do that. Let's switch to the opposite sideband. And I'll kind of show you guys what that sounds like. I want to try and see if I can find a really strong signal here to show you guys this, because a weak signal is kind of hard. Well, here's an AM station. So Mexican radio comes in. So it's a really high pitch. If I switch to AM... So I'm picking up some, but see how good that's like, it sounds pretty clear, right? And it's a super powerful station. But let's go ahead and switch back to lower sideband. There's a guy talking right here. I think I found one. Or is this just a tone? That's a tone.
Are you tuning on the radio or are you tuning on the computer?
I'm on the radio right now. I'll show you guys the app here in a second. See, the problem on HF too is you can sometimes only hear one side of the conversation, depending on how far away the other guy is. So I found one more. We'll try this one and then we'll. Where'd you go? There he is. Okay. So he's pretty good there. We'll switch to the opposite sideband. And he stopped talking, of course. But you kind of heard at the beginning. And so it's weird. You would think that you would still be able to hear it because you're like, okay, I'm just picking one of the sides, but you're really not. They are kind of two different. So there's your fun little lesson. Your
it's
ham
cool. It's
radio
good to hear
lesson.
it. It's good
And
to
then
hear it.
I'll show you guys real quick the app. So the app I chose to go with, and if you're a ham, hopefully you've heard of this app because it's amazing. It's Hamrio Deluxe, and it really is, I would say, it's kind of the game changer. It's the leading application for if you want a full featured suite for ham radio. So let me share my screen real quick here. Share this one. So what you'll see with Hamrio Deluxe is it has, like I said, it's the full suite for ham radio. What I use it for, so there's a lot of modules that come with it. But on this left side here, you can see this is my radio. So in kind of a computer version. So we can see actually the sound coming in right here, the different levels. So as we turn that up, let's get tuned on this guy. You guys can hear.
What I have.
So there's the meter right here, and there's that S meter.
1.4 kilowatts.
Oh, geez, this guy's running 1.4 kilowatts. So 1,400 watts.
How close is that to 1.21 gigawatts?
Yeah, it's pretty far away. But he's running 1,400 watts compared to my 100. So he probably wouldn't even be able to hear me if I keyed up. But the great part about this is that I don't need to touch the radio. So a lot of times when I'm searching for POTA, Parks on the Air people, I'll know what frequency they're going to be on because they're on a spotting site. And so I can just change right there. So I just changed the frequency of my radio, and my radio instantly reflects it on the physical radio, which is great. You can switch your band here, set all your different noise reduction, things like that. But really the great part about it too is it connects to my logbook. So over here on the right side is my logbook. So I'm logging every single contact I make. Well, if I go to add a contact, a lot of times you're doing this really fast. And what you'll notice is actually on the frequency for it, it just knows because it's connected to the radio what frequency it's on. So it's one less thing you have to enter when it comes to logging something because it just always knows what frequency your radio is on. And you know, this is kind of, I know that USB connection to your radio isn't totally new to ham radio, but you know, it's relatively new to ham radio. Before, you know, even when I was doing Parks on the Air, before I started using my iPad, you're manually doing this in a notebook. And then, and there's no problem with that. There's no requirement that you have a log. But it's nice, and a lot of people like it when you upload your log to a common site where they can, you know, confirm their contact with you. And it's, I don't know, it's just kind of, there's no hard and fast rule about it, but people really like it. So most of the time, you're going to want to get your logbook digital anyway. So having some sort of app like this that can pull all this stuff in is really nice. And there's so many other features of this. There's satellite tracking. A lot of guys are really into talking off satellite repeaters. So there are a lot of satellites, low Earth orbit satellites circling around that are specifically meant for ham radio guys. Whoa, I didn't think about that. I pulled that on the wrong screen. And a lot of guys really love, because it's the challenge, right? That satellite's only going to pass over you for about maybe 8 to 10 minutes. At the best, right? It may even go faster than that depending on where it is. And you don't know, okay, do I need to aim my antenna straight up in the air? Is it going barely over the horizon? Where am I going to have to point my antenna to get this satellite? So there's some satellite tracking in here that you can do your digital modes through a module here as well. It's really the kind of the full featured suite. There are so many things that this does. And the more powerful, beefy radio you have with more features, the more that this software can even do for you, which is great. It is a little bit pricey. It's $100. So right now, I just started using this a week ago. I'm doing a 30-day free trial just to make sure that I fully utilize all the features, because there are a lot of free logging programs out there that are that are great. But man, once I got into this, I should not have done the free trial, because now I feel spoiled when I'm doing things like this. But you know, the things about a digital logbook too that I like, the thing I didn't mention is for this reason right here. So let's say I hear a guy out there and it's K4 X-ray uniform. So when I type him in, it instantly pulls up the last 2 times we talked. So I can be like, oh, dude, and it pulls in from online his name, right? Because it's using the online database. So instantly with that, for a second, I'm like, Rich, dude, you and I just talked on the 26th. We were actually over on single sideband on 20 meters was the last time we talked. Like, oh yeah, I remember talking to you. How's it going? And you can add in comments here. So I can say, hey, like we talked about my antenna setup. So I have comments in here for everyone I talk to if I do a lengthy conversation. And then next time it comes up, it's like, oh yeah, remember last time we talked about your YouTube channel, things like that. So it makes it super quick and easy to kind of jog your memory on, have I talked to this guy before or have I not? So a lot of just advantage there of using a digital logbook and something like that.
Yeah. No, nice. That's why I podcast, so I remember conversations.
Right.
I'm getting kind of old, so I don't, there's some conversations we've had years ago. If I didn't record them in a podcast, I wouldn't have remembered them. That's pretty cool, Mike. That looks really cool. Like, that's one of those, when you showed me that, I'm like, oh, now I'm thinking about this. Like,
oh man, if we could get Jim into ham radio, that would be my day.
Oh my God. Well, I got to get the I've got to get the drone that first flies up into the air when somebody, although lately with the pandemic, my neighbors are moving around a lot more. That thing would be up and down all day.
Yeah.
Plus the kids coming and going. Tim is here with me now. So anyways, but yeah, no, I don't need another thing, but it's super cool, Mike, that you've gotten into this. And I think fun for those in the community that have been into it and are now kind of like maybe getting re-enthused about it because you are. So have you connected with anybody on ham that's a listener?
Yeah, we have a few other, obviously, okay. Andrew out in the chat, he's one, Ron, big one. There's a few more, good. I'm sure that I'm forgetting because we do have a channel for it out in Discord too. Okay, good. And that's the other thing too, if you guys are on HF, and Andrew asked what bands I'm on 40 through 10. So that's what my off-center fed dipole does. I spend, right now with the sun cycle, I spend most of my day on 40 or 20. Right now, what we were just listening to, that was 40 meters. So we're around 7.2 megahertz was where we were tuned in on. But I do spend, 20 during the day is a little bit better, 40 definitely at night. And then hopefully when the sun kind of peaks back up, we'll get maybe some more 10 meter band going. And I would love to get an antenna up for 80 meters or 160. I really just don't have the room on my property the way it's configured to put an even longer antenna. But I've thought about it. I've kind of been mapping some stuff out to see if I could put like an end fed out there or some way to get that going. But it's Jim, like we talked about, it's one of those hobbies where you could ask me every single week, what'd you update? And I would have something to tell you because you can never perfect it. And you can always do some little tweak to make things better. That's just, man, I've just been loving it.
Cool. Well, good to get an update from you and and again, I'm sure there's some folks out there who've been doing this a while who are encouraged to hear some of this, that you're doing it. Like, everybody likes to hear when somebody else gets into their hobby. Mm-hmm. And so super cool. It's like a podcaster. I get all geeked out when somebody else decides to become a podcaster.
Yep.
You're like, oh, there's so many things to learn, right? There's so many things to know. So super cool. No, so we'll continue to do some more shows until you guys get sick of it. So keep, Mike, keep growing, and we'll probably, as we get closer to Christmas, we had planned this update for later in the fall, but when Chris couldn't do it, you were just like, hey, I could give the update now. So I said, yeah.
And also, I'll think of some fun facts we can learn too. And Andrew asked if you and I would actually be within 70 centimeter band range, and we would. So that'd be the cool part. If Jim did, even if I just got Jim, I should probably just give him one of my Baofeng radios and tell him to go take his tech test, because not on simplex though. I should clarify. It would have to be through a repeater. We do not have line of sight between Jim's house and mine radio wise. We'd be close, but probably not. So we'd have to be talking through a repeater. But we're definitely in the same locale. We could talk on a few actually repeaters that we could both hear from our houses.
I'm just going to drive to your house. Like, I can't deliver beer or cigars via ham radio. So when I want to talk to you, I'm just going to come over to your house.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I like that better.
Good. Mike, good update. A couple other updates before we go. Mike, one is I've switched, for 30 years, I have tried to move my to-do lists from paper, and I'm super effective on paper, like super effective. And I was a Franklin planner guy for a lot of years. I carried around this nerdy notebook that had Franklin, Covey, Franklin Covey. It was Franklin when I first started with him. You'd buy these pages each year. You'd get a catalog and be like, oh, what kind of, they'd have different styles, Monticello and all these other, right?
My mom was huge into that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, dude, there was nothing better than a Franklin, like the smell of a Franklin planner.
That's so funny is what she said too. Like the smell of it was just like unique. Yeah.
I swear to God, they put additives in their ink just for that kind of thing.
Right.
It was just like order and love and acceptance all wrapped up in the paper smell, right? And so, you'd get I'd always get a new, batch of planner pages at the end of the year and put them in binders and, all those kinds of things. It's the only thing in my life I was actually organized on. Now, I didn't actually follow the stuff I put in there, but the planner looked good. So over the last, I don't know, I was a Palm 3 guy and then a Palm 5, and I've been trying to move my to-do since then, really. I've been trying to move my to-do list online and nothing has worked, right? Even when Wunderlist came out, everybody moved to Wunderlist for whatever reason. Trello, whatever, those couldn't do it. I tried, I got on Wunderlist, I built a list for a week, I ditched it. I just couldn't get to it. So I don't know, 3 weeks ago, I said to myself, and I don't know why, I'm making the change. Like I am going to force myself. And I think I've been listening to Windows Weekly and Paul Thurrott was talking about To-Do, and I had seen the To-Do application on Windows, available on the web and in Windows. It's the old Wunderlist that Microsoft bought, then did nothing with for a couple years. And then they're bringing it out and making it as part of the Office suite. And I think I got it. Like, I think I have finally moved. So my work PC is here. I've got a screen right above it that is the full-time To-Do screen. This is what I needed. And the screen's touch. So I can just, as I'm done with things,
nice.
I can just check them off. If I need to add more things, I just swivel to this chair, go to the web, add them in, type them in, boom. But during the day, thanks, Tony, for that tweet, by the way. You just tweeted us. During the day, I'll be working here and just checking things off. And that's what I figured is what I needed is I needed that thing on something I could see all the time. I'm a visual guy. Right?
That was going to be my question is what clicked. So it was having
Yeah.
a monitor devoted to that 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got this 22-inch touchscreen that I bought years ago to do some things with, and plugged
Was that the kitchen
in.
PC? Was that
had
one?
been the kitchen PC.
Yeah,
That had
okay.
been the kitchen PC. Yeah, that thing's been a bunch of different stuff. It's the weather PC too. I can bring up my radar on it, and but to have that to-do list, and then today I figured out if I load the app from Microsoft, the Windows app, you can put it in dark mode. And go, now that is like I'm in. Like it looks great. It's easy on the eyes, but having it all in one place in my workspace, that was the key. Like having it there so I could just check things off with my finger as I go.
Yeah.
Boop, boop, boop on a PC. So I thought, well, how am I going to do this at work? Because my work setup is completely different. I've got this big 34 or 44 or whatever inch monitor, but I don't want that I want to see the to-do list all the time. That's the key. It needs to be there all the time. So I took my Surface 3 that's sitting right behind me here on screen, and took the power cable in because it's in a dock here. I'm just going to leave it at work. So the power dock is there. And then I'm just going to grab in the morning. So I go in, I'll just undo that, throw that, because that's an easy thing to take to work with me. It's touchscreen as well. And then it makes a satisfying ding when I close something out. When you close something out, it just makes this little nice little ding.
Right.
And so I set it up with the Surface or with the Surface Pro, just put the kickstand out and set it down on the desk, monitor here, Surface to my left, and then laptop to my right. And I've got kind of 3 screens like I do here. And I did it one day and it was like, this is great.
You've got me thinking about that now too. Cause Jim, my thing is I start doing everything digital and then I fall out of it because the notepad is always there. Right. But the screen's not. So I think you might've solved my issue too, is I have my notepad everywhere, but I never have a screen that's fully dedicated to notes or to-dos. And so maybe taking my iPad in and having that just be the always on screen and just have it dedicated strictly to that could be my answer too. You might have solved my problem.
Man, well, let me know. It took me forever to figure out I need to see the thing, because that's what the difference. That's what paper was. It was always on my desk.
Exactly.
I could always see it. And you'd be like, Jim, that's dumb. No, that's the way I'm wired. Like I need to have everything out in front of me all the time. It's why I'm a monitor hound, because I want every monitor to have a reason, and I want it to be showing something. You know, I have this monitor up here that normally shows what's going on in my Google Analytics, so I know when people hit the website. But during this show, it's the audio. It's what feeds Spreaker, right? It has, I have Twitter and all my cameras on this monitor right below it, right? These two are the work monitors that I have here. I have a dedicated Discord box that in monitor that just has Discord on all the time, because I know if I don't have it up, I will forget about it.
Yep.
You know,
I'm the same exact way.
Yeah.
I'm a monitor hound too, and I have always something dedicated. My right one over here is Discord too. I have a whole monitor that always Discord all day. I don't sit down here for work because I can't fit my work laptop on here on this desk. But when I'm down here, it's just,
well, there's the work laptop now. I just switched those around yesterday, so now I have a 24-inch monitor here that had been the 34-inch monitor, and actually that setup wasn't as good because it didn't fit as well in here. So now that I have a 24 that fits perfectly underneath the touchscreen monitor, so they are literally like they're bezel to bezel, and it looks great, right? And then laptop sits off to the side and it fits on the desk, and so when I'm working, I'm literally sitting this way, and then when I'm podcasting, I'm sitting this way, and it's like it's taken me 6 months, but I think I have it all kind of nailed down.
Now it's time to go back to the office. You got it all figured out.
Well, here's the deal, though. I think I figured out how I want my office set up to be too through all this. Like this kind of forced me into some productivity rhythms that it's like, it's really important that I get monitors in the right place. And each one has a purpose, and I know why they're doing them, and each workflow. It was like figuring out workflows, based on monitors. So no, I'm not. I mean, it's always a continual process of figuring out what works best for you. But I was trying to figure out, why have I been so much more productive at home than I ever was in the office? And some of it is my friends distract me. Maybe that's the other way around. But just to be honest. But no, I have more screen real estate at here than I do. And so I can be mad. The more screens I have, the more productive I can be. So getting to do, choose the application of your choice, but certainly what Microsoft's doing is going to integrate in with a whole bunch of stuff. If you're already in the space, available web, and there's an Android app, and there's an iPhone app, and there's a Windows app. So they've kind of got it everywhere. It's in dark mode now. So, which is super cool. So if you haven't tried that, give it a try.
So how would you compare that to just using like the feature in OneNote of like a task list in OneNote? A lot better?
For me, I don't think it matters. It's whatever works for you.
Okay.
Like I like the layout of To Do.
Okay. And I love
the layout of Wonderlist.
iPhone too.
They do.
Okay.
They do. They have it for everything. So
got it.
I need big boxes, and I don't know about OneNote, and I'm sure you can make them bigger and some of those other things, but you've got in To Do, you've got some ability to set repeats and important and by date and shuffle some things around. It's also not so much. It's not like a Trello board where there's so many things you can do. You just kind of get overwhelmed. You're like, oh my God, I need a PhD to run this thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
So in fact, I just got a 9:00 notice from To Do to go take my medicine. So, I'm an old guy now, so I've got to remind myself to go take medicine. Mike, one more thing, an old product that we haven't talked about ever on the show, and I want to kind of do a live demo. So I'm going to share my screen here for a second. You'll get to see a little bit of behind the scenes here as we're doing some things. Let's share screen number 2. Oh, that's handy. Okay. So maybe we won't do that. Let's see if we can.
I was wondering if that was just on my side that you were seeing that too.
Yeah, no, that was flashing here as well. Let's go to, let's just go to this screen. Let's see if this works. So there's an application. It's been around since 1903, and I think it became more popular in 1909. These are Windows 10 versions. And it's called, and you're going to get the Tesseract here, but it's just called Sandbox. And one of the interesting things about it is I tested it early when Microsoft was first rolling this thing out. I'm just going to go to Windows and type in Sandbox. And you do have to install this thing on your computer. And so you have to enable some things. So look up if you're going to look up Windows. Hopefully it won't lock me up completely. Can you still hear me?
We lost you for a little bit there.
Oh boy. So maybe. Okay, good. Yeah, I was going to say, you know, as soon as I started this thing up, I thought, yeah, I wonder if this is going to lock me up. You should be seeing, hopefully, the Sandbox window opening. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we'll give it a second. So in that time that I was talking, by the way, it's very CPU intensive, but in the time I was talking, it just started a VM for me of Windows 10. I didn't have to go in and provision it. I didn't have to go in and set up hard drive space for it. I didn't have to tell it how much RAM to use. It just created an instance of Windows 10. Are you seeing this Windows?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's blowing my mind. I had no idea this existed. This is like all new information to me.
Yeah. So again, they've been working on this for a while, and this had been something they had used or they had started with. It used to be super intensive, and they've really streamlined it down. And of course, like anything good that Microsoft does, once they perfected it, they stopped talking about it. So one of the things, let's see if we have, well, that's not good. It says it's not connected. Why is that?
I mean, it looks like it's completely sandboxed, even the connection maybe.
Yeah.
So, well, is it really?
I was going to do a demo of showing it's supposed to connect. For some reason, it's not. And maybe the way, let's close that down again. And then maybe it's the way I've got this shown. So let me remove this again and we'll stop sharing. And then let me bring it back up. I'll bring it back up on my big screen. Let's see if this, there we go. And then let me do search for it again. So just type in Windows Sandbox. Like I said, if you've never done this before, you'll need to do a few things to enable it on your Windows box. I'm going to disappear here for just a second, or I may just lock up. We'll see how that goes. And again, I just started it. You can't see it running now. I'm going to bring it over to, but in the time that it's taken me, there it is. In the time it's taken me to kind of talk through this, it spins a VM for you, which is super cool. Let's see if it connects this time. I don't know why it's not connecting. It should be. Earlier today, I tested it just to see it, like, can I bring this up in a live show? And it worked. One of the cool things about this now, because it won't connect, I can't do it, but it comes with the old version of Microsoft Edge. And so this afternoon, I opened up Edge and said, upgrade it to the new version of Edge. And it did. Just upgraded it right there. Boom, I was done. The one thing about this doesn't save state. So when you're in and you close it, you're done. Next time you open it, it's going to be this exact screen that you see here. So what it's great for is, though, if you needed to test something, if you wanted to run, like, you wanted to run an application that you're like, I don't know, or download an application from a site, you're like, I don't know, right? We all have antivirus and stuff like that, but this is another layer kind of protection here.
Or you want to run a command line script, a little shell script, you want to make sure you have it right and you're not going to completely crash something, right? Run it here in the sandbox, make sure it works okay. When you're in the PowerShell and stuff like that, and you want to make sure you didn't mess it up, probably a good way to test it.
Yeah. And so it's good as for as long as you leave it open. As soon as you close it, it's gone. So it's completely sandboxed away from everything. If you do something terrible here, you just close it and that all goes away. Runs off of the virtual machine, technology, VM, the VM stuff that comes with Windows. Hyper-V, thank you.
Yep.
And it's enabled if you go in. I think you have to go, if you're going to add a component to Windows, you go in there and you'll see, I think it just says Microsoft Sandbox. Click it, it'll install some things and run it. It'll show up as an icon in your start menu. If you need to know how to do it, just search Windows Sandbox. And you too, close that out, get some resources. Take, in this case, it's going to take some CPU and some memory as it's running that box. But another one of those cool applications that we kind of forgot about, that I was like, that might be an interesting little thing. If you need a quick sandbox to try, it's available there on Windows 10. Works great. Listen, it's a million times faster than it used to be. So they've gotten better.
And even just, I mean, there are people who spin up a VM just for like a few hours on, Unraid or something, just to like test something out. I had no idea that existed. That's I have done that on my Unraid box before, and just to know that exists, I'll be using that feature a lot. That's really cool.
Dude, super fast. I could today, this morning, as I was thinking about things to talk about, and I got reminded of this, and I was like, oh yeah, I wonder if that thing is still a POS, because it was bad in the early days. And so I fired it up and boom, it was there. And I was like, wait a minute. So I closed it, did it again, popped up again. I was like, seriously, that's like 15 seconds. Like,
that can't be the same thing.
This can't be right. So I did some digging, and it will not be, if you've just installed Windows 10, it won't be there. Like I said, you have to go in and install it and do some things to make it. But it's super easy to get it on your box. It takes you, depends on your PC, but it takes you 5 minutes to get it installed. Give it a try. Windows Sandbox. If you want to give that a try, super cool. Mike, a couple reminders for folks on our way out. October 24th, Meetup. In MEAT, that's what we're calling it. That'll be the branding on it, stuff like that. There'll be a link. I put the link in the chat room. There'll also be a link in the show notes if you want to join us. We got a whole schedule of things. Head over to Eventbrite. It's got the schedule in it. I'll be updating the Eventbrite calendar invite as well, just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page. If you have any questions or you can't find it, just email me, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Or if you want to be one of the smoker cams, that's live all day. And why wouldn't you want to be? I think that's going to be super cool. Let me know, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and we'll get it done as well. Just a small programming note. I'll be out of the area here the weekend of the 17th, and I'm actually going to be in Boston hanging out with Ed Sullivan, and we're going to do Ask the Podcast Coach. No show that Thursday. We're actually I'll probably stream the Bitdefender interview or make it available on the live page that day so folks can watch it. We're going to send that down both channels, both Cyber Frontiers. Christian did that with me. So that's coming up that weekend. But Cigar Authority, 11, it's the right time, 11 Central, noon Eastern on that weekend, October 17th. I get to hang out with the guys and talk podcasting on Cigar Authority, which is going to be super cool. So you're going to want to come out. Very cool audience, by the way. Not as cool as you guys listening right now, but they're pretty cool. I've been hanging out with them the last couple weeks they do this live show on Saturdays at 11. I've been hanging out in the chat room. It's nice not to be the podcaster, but going to be on that show. So head out to, let's see, where do we get information about this? Well, two guys cigars, but I found them, the Cigar Authority. Find it on YouTube. Follow them over there. 1017. It's going to be a ton of fun. So if you haven't, and by the way, you don't have to be into cigars to watch the show. Come out, and love to have you come out and join me. They've been promoting me up on the show for the last couple weeks. So if you guys want to come out and join us in the chat room, that'll be awesome as well. Mike, I'll be thinking of you as I'm smoking a couple cigars that weekend.
I bet.
A couple cigars. I may not come back alive. Anything else? Let's hope not. Anything else you want to add, Mike, before we wrap it?
No, I mean, when you let me talk ham radio, I pretty much get it all out of my system. So no, I'm good.
Well, we appreciate you guys out there both listening live and listening to the recorded version of this. And as we come up to the December 3rd, 10th anniversary show, we just want to say thanks for all that you do. I also want to thank our Patreon subscribers. If you go to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon, you can be one of those as too. I'll be scheduling the next Patreon meetup probably early November at this point because of some of the things that are going on, but there's still time to get in on that. So if you want to be a Patreon supporter, head out to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. $5 plans get you there as well. Man, I started drinking Sprite or 7-Up. It's making me burp a ton. I hate that. If you want to join us in our Facebook group, theaverageguy.tv/Facebook. On Discord, we are theaverageguy.tv/Discord. Of course, you can always reach me via email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Don't forget theaverageguy.tv, both web and media hosting powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting and some pretty great hosting from people that you know and trust. And of course, that is Christian. Plans start as little as $10 a month, and he can do just about anything for you. So head out to maplegrovepartners.com, get signed up. Always appreciate when you guys come through and let him know that your Home Gadget Geeks listener, as you're signing up for plans out there. He literally can set anything up. He's WordPress specialized and really good at podcasting, but he can do anything for you. So head out to maplegrovepartners.com, and we'd love to have you be a partner over there as well. And then don't forget, I said I wouldn't say this, but I'm going to throw it in at the very end. theaverageguy.tv/HelloFresh if you want to still join us.
Out of a show that you
I can't get out of here without that. No, I had a bunch join during September. So thanks for doing that. Kyle just sent me a note today. He's like, okay, I'm going to do HelloFresh. Send me the link. So if you'd like to do that, head over to theaverageguy.tv/HelloFresh and get signed up today. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. Oh, did I mention I didn't mention during the Canva segment about the contest, did I?
No.
Okay. So let me mention it here real quick. So for the most engaged listeners, those who are going to do it have made it this far anyways. This is a little bonus content for the end. So, Canva is our kind of affiliate for the month of October. I'd love to see you guys make really creative album art for Home Gadget Geeks during the month of October. So head over to Canva. You just use the free plan. You don't have to, if you want to sign up and pay for some things, you can, but you can use the free plan. And what I need from you is album art for each of the shows. So like for this show, I'd love for you guys to come up with some creative album art. It needs to be 600 pixels by 600 pixels. That's just what I need. So go in there, make a custom 600 by 600. Just start doing it. Like, I want to see how creative you can be. I can't use them all, but I may be able to use multiple ones in different ways. It'll definitely make the website. You saw that earlier. So if you're going to do that, get cracking on it now. As soon as you're hearing this, get moving on it. Love to see your art. Send me what you have for this show, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and it'll go in the race, the considering to be the album art for this show. We'd love to have you do it. Use Canva, theaverageguy.tv/Canva, CANVA, to get in there as well. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. We'll do some post show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.